Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to walk y'all through how to make some dark like trap beats that rappers actually will use, right? Because there is an art to making things that rappers will use versus beats that producers will be like, yo, that's crazy too, right? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to play you like 16 bars of a song I did in session yesterday with an artist called Gelatoo from Pittsburgh. Go check him out. He's hard as hell. But let me go ahead and play you a little bit of this, all right?
Right. Crazy how they envy me, like who the fuck you talking to? Bitch, I keep that blade with me, you better have that Glock on you. Killers like the Navy, leave them hanging if they need the proof. I just caught the audible, big money place keep falling through. And that head from your bitch was incredible. Plus I got that bread on your head, now it's edible. Pull up in that deli too, don't let me race ahead of you. All my killers, demons say one word and I'ma let them loose.
Cool, so like I said, that was a beat I actually did in session for an artist yesterday during, just typical weekly session we have. So today I'm going to kind of walk through a couple key things I've learned in my time of making beats in session for artists. And there is, like a strategy to doing it to make sure that it's one, a beat that an artist will like and wants to rap on, and two, that will kind of cater to their strengths, right? So for example, yesterday, my homie Gelatoo, he came in. He was like, yo, I want to make something fast, dark, and ambient, and maybe like some bell sounds, right? So that was a perfect starting place for me, right? I already know what kind of beat I'm going to make for him. And I know that from talking with him back and forth, I was like, hey, do you want, like a chorus in here, or is it just kind of be a rap song? He was like, nah, my homie's going to show up in a few. We're just going to trade back 16s, right? So that signaled to me, hey, like I don't need some huge melodic difference from a verse to a chorus. I'm more going to focus on having like one or two extra drum sounds that I can pull in and out of the beat as we go through every 8 bars to kind of add some variation and keep it interesting. We kind of touched already on two of like the main keys, right? One of them is going to be actually making a melody for like the right artist, right? So if I was making an NBA Youngboy beat, I'm probably going to use like an organ. I'm going to use like a down south piano or a gospel-y type piano. I'm going to use the electric guitar screaming in the background. I'm going to use the wah guitars, right? And then in the drums, I'm probably going to have like 10 different sounds. I'm going to have 3 different like perk rolls with different sounds, or different snares, a couple different open hats, a fast hi-hat pattern, right? Because that's the kind of beats that allow him to do his best work on. Whereas for, the artist I was working with, it was, hey, he's going to want something darker and ambient, like he said, a little bit faster, and it's just going to be a rap song, so I want to make sure to leave enough room that he can just put bars down over this beat, right? So and one of the other keys that I kind of mentioned there is knowing, how complex this beat needs to be. So knowing that it was just going to be 16s back and forth, I don't really want a lot of melody change up, right? I basically want one good melody. Maybe I'll bring in an extra sound here and there. And like I said, I just want to be able to pivot in and out some drums every 8 bars to keep the beat kind of interesting. Now, the last big key is don't let your 808s suck. They need to have awesome bounce, right? And that's something I struggled with probably for like the first year of me producing. And the best way I remedied that is I literally went and I downloaded like 20 songs off of YouTube that I really liked, and I just recreated the drum patterns. And by doing that, I could see, okay, like an 808 hitting here sounds good, but it sounds really good if I have like a snare hitting right before it, right? So you'll pick up some of those tricks. You'll pick up things like, where do triplet rolls sound good? Where does pitching one up an octave sound good? Just the best way to learn. So if you're a beginner, definitely start out that way. And if you want help with that, I'm about to drop a full drum MIDI kit. I just want to have like 15 of them in there, so I need to go through some beats, find some good drum bounces, and export them, and then I'll be dropping that kit sometime next week. But for instance, I have one here where it's first 808 MIDI, second pattern, hi-hat, kick, open hat, snare, so on and so forth for all of these right here. So if you do need that help, or if you just want some good drums that are going to sound great, you can build melodies around, feel free to download that kit when it drops. It'll be totally free. So let's go ahead and get into the actual beat here today. So first thing I did is I was looking for a good bell sound. I wasn't really loving anything I found until I stumbled upon this. That was so old English of me, but I came through and found this ARP called A from this High Fashion kit. It's a really nice like bell sort of ARP sound. What I did here is I basically laid out what do I want my 808 pattern to be, and that was this pattern right here, right? So I said I'm going to have one on the 1, 1.4, 2.2, and whatever you'd call that right there. Now, I didn't want this to be totally boring, but again, I wanted it to still be kind of basic. So I built triad chords. I copied the triad over, I pitched the F down to an E. I copied the triad over again, pitched the E back to an F. And then for the last note, I did something you'll hear in a lot of trap beats and a lot of stuff I do. It's a 1 inverted 4 progression. So what going up to the 4, which is the G here, allows you to do is just build a triad chord. There's your second note. Here's your third note. Pitch it down. So the chords kind of move up in terms of like melodic pitch, but they don't go too high, and it's a subtle change, right? And it also gives us some tension here from the third note of the 1 into the second note of this last or inverted 4th chord. So all I did is I copied that over, then I copied it over again, pitched it up, and turned the velocities down. For the mix on that, I literally just have EQ2, cutting out a little bit of the lows, boosting some of this like low medium range, and then cutting some of this like high mid here. So I'm going to go ahead and play that in a second, but first I want to show you what I did for the second sound here. It's just a pad from Omnisphere, or actually a bell called a gate from this Wicked patch. Now all I did is just copy over what I already had, and then instead of leaving this pitched up, I pitched it back down so everything's at the D4 level. Now this pad is going to, or this bell I should say, is going to play the entire song with the ARP. They just complement each other and kind of form one main melodic sound. Now, even though I knew I was going to focus on the drums here, I did want to have like one little addition to the melody during the second artist verse. So I found in this Halfway Renegade pack this lead called Space. It literally sounds like a hospital beep. That's it. I put it on the 3 and the 4, added some delay to it, and that was it. So I use it very sparingly. You can see I only use it here in 24 bars of the beat. Now, let me go ahead and play you those 3 melodic elements together. So, really, really simple melody, really catchy though, really ambient, and, had that dark bell sound that my artist was looking for. So after that, went into the drums, right? And like I already said, I kind of laid out what I wanted the 808s to look like in my chord progression, right? So an easy trick if you want to have a beat an artist will use, wherever your chords are, put 808s and make sure they're in key. If you can do just that, you will make beats artists will use. It is that simple a lot of the time, right? So what do we have here for the 808? Well, first 3 notes were the D from our chords, and then we went up to the G. What do? We copied that over. We just brought this up to the A sharp 5. Just sounded a little bit nicer when I was listening through, coming back down to this D, especially because the melody moves up an octave here, right? Then for the second half, I didn't want things to be too boring. So I actually started over here in bars 7 to 8. I came in and I added an extra 808. I cut that in, and I just pitched it up an octave. And then I actually cut in one more 808 here on this last clap. Thought it sounded kind of nice. Probably didn't have to do it though, but it did sound good. Then I copied that pattern over to here. And for this that I'd pitched up, I pitched it back down, just made a triplet roll. Now, if you don't know how to make a triplet roll really easily, you can literally do this, drag out 3 of them, and just bring that down till it fits. So there was my 808 pattern, had a ton of bounce. what I did is I copied that over the kicks, and where I added those extra cuts, you know, here and here and here, I just did not keep those kicks. I didn't want them in there. They didn't sound too nice rolling on the triplet either. Clap, really basic. Barchi sniffing clap. Shout out Archie Griffin, OSU legend. Anyways, that clap's in my Young Metro kit if you want. It's free on my channel. Just a good bit of trap sounds in there. So basic clap, copied that over, standard clap pattern. After that, went straight to the hi-hat. And really simple here. I added a triplet roll going into the first half. Nothing until right before bar 3. I just added 6 little notes to roll into it. And then rather than have the triplet roll here again for some variation, I did it on the 3.4. And then I did something else I like to do is when I have an 808 hitting, sometimes like right here, is I'll highlight, click shift, drag over one of these, and then if you hold in alt, you can drag it wherever you want. So I just made a little roll where that 808 and kick hit. Then at the end, I just did another little roll here, 4 notes, brought this note from here up to. And sometimes when I'm going to do a roll at the end of the bar, I like to introduce the start of that roll, if it's like pitched up or down from the C, by just clicking the note before and adding one on top. Now we literally copied that pattern over, took the end roll, and just brought it down a couple notes. So right then and there, we were probably good to go. I mean, the artist could have rapped on this beat. He was ready to record at this point. But I was like, hey, it's going to be a lot of rapping back and forth. I need to add a couple extra drum sounds to keep this beat interesting so it's not boring for the listener. So what we did is we brought in an open hat. I literally copied over the kick pattern, and then I just deleted the kicks that were here, here, and here. And then I copied this thing right over. The other sound I added, first of 2 snares, is I love the bounce in trap beats where it goes like 808 open hat clap or 808 triangle clap. So I tried that here. I didn't love putting an open hat on the 1.2. It just didn't sound that good. So I ended up going with this Memphis snare. Copied that over to the second half. Again, really basic stuff. I ended up wanting one more, snare in here to kind of add some bounce. So right before the 808 comes in on the 3, I just added this snare. So again, pretty basic. These drums are nothing crazy at all, right? Just really, really easy drums for the artist to shine on. So all together with all of that, the drums and the melody, it sounded like this. Cool. So at that point, my artist, he was like really ready to record, right? And that's kind of one thing that's taught me a lot about how to keep my beats simple and usable, right? There's a lot of times someone will come in, they're like, hey, I want like a dark pad or dark like synthy sort of melody going. So I'll lay, like a chord progression with a couple melodic notes in there. And by the time, 5 minutes later, 3, 4, 5 minutes later, I'm going to lay the 808 and the clap. As soon as I get that in, they're usually like, all right, I'm ready. Like, punch me in, bro. And I'm like, all right. If I then turn to my client, I said, yo, I need 30 minutes. He's going to be hating that, right? He's ready to go. He just needs the 808, a hi-hat, and a clap. So that taught me a lot about keeping things simple. It was like, okay, I have the main melody. I have an 808, I have a clap, I have a 2-step hi-hat. Now all I'm going to do is maybe like copy over this melodic sound once to something else, add in like, one extra little component and a couple snares or open hats really quick just so we have some variation I can use throughout the beat. Sometimes I won't even use all of those sounds, right? And beats like that taught me a lot about going overboard. A year and a half ago on a beat like this, I probably would have added in like 2 risers in there and like another open hat pattern and some like perk rolls, and I would have just been wasting time because I wouldn't have ended up using them in the final beat. So keep it simple. Now for the layout, right, I knew that the artist just wanted to trade 16s back and forth basically, so I started and copied the 2 main melodic components the entire way through this beat. Right off the first 8 bars, just a little riser here. drops in. Now, this is where we start to use drum sounds, pulling them in and out to make it varied. So you'll notice, what did I do? I brought in the open hat, but I didn't bring in the kick. And I didn't bring in the Memphis snare. I didn't introduce them right away. So we have our core drum bounce here plus the snare. Then, for the second part of his verse, we wanted to create some more energy. Boom. Kick comes in. Right after that kick comes in, the Memphis snare comes in. So it's like kick and 808, Memphis snare, clap, right? Sounds awesome. After that, to transition into the next artist where I brought in the hospital beep, we get rid of the kicks. Signals to the listener there's a transition happening. Got rid of the open hats. Does the same thing. Left the Memphis snare to preserve that bounce. Left that for 8 bars. Brought the kick back in right here, back half of his 16 bars. Then we're transitioning back to the first artist right here. I didn't really want to do too much. I left it exactly how it was from the 8 bars before. The only thing I did is I came in and I added a really, really basic snare roll here at the end. So we go clap, 4 snares in a roll, snare, snare. And that just transitions in to no 808, no kick and no Memphis snare, but we're getting that open hat back. Again, just pulling in and out different drum elements to keep it interesting for the listener. And then right here, we drop right back into the full drums to close out the song. At the end, all I have is my tag, and I like to sometimes cut one open hat just so that on the final note, boom, open hat, sounds nice and smooth. So, really short song, only 1:30, but that's what they were going for. So again, focus on keeping your drums simple, nailing the right melodic vibe for the artist you're trying to place a beat with, and then really deciding what you want to do. Are you trying to send a beat to an artist where they're going to lay a hook and 2 verses, or 2 hooks and 2 verses? Okay, you might want an extra melodic element in the hook then. That's going to sound really nice, and it's going to differentiate the hook from the verse. Or are you sending a song out to a rapper who's just going to do, 120 plus bars straight? Okay, then you probably don't need some massive changes or extra instruments in the melody. You probably want a good repeatable melody. You can bring in an extra melodic sound or two that's pretty minimal, but have some extra drum sounds that you can pull in and out to create that variation for them. And then finally, don't mess up your 808s. It's got to be the best part. Now, quickly, I do want to play a couple little parts of this that I was talking about for the variation, right? So let's hear this 808 into the kick. Right, hear how nice that sounds? It created a ton of variation. So we get that kick, it totally punches through. And then we go right into the Memphis snare and then the clap. Just sounds totally different than what we had going on before, right? And then let me play you another spot, right? Where we have this snare roll coming in. Again, a clear signal that a small transition's coming. Sounds really, really nice there as well. Now, you could always do other things, right? You can just cut back a bar from everything. Another one I like to do is cut back everything except for the 808, right? Cut those back a bar. Sometimes I'll even leave the clap there, so it goes clap, 808 rolls at the end. That works best if you do have some 808 rolls in this last bar. Another one is if I have that classic 1-2 clap snare bounce. Sometimes I'll cut everything else back except for snare and the clap. Just creates a nice little transition. You could always cut this back 2 bars, add a riser, cut it back 2 bars, add nothing, right? You got a lot of different options to create those small variations there. But a key component of it is often adding a new drum sound you haven't heard in 8 to 16 bars, or removing one you've heard for the last 8 to 16 bars. But that's it for today, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments if you want me to keep doing some of these beat breakdowns of songs that artists have actually recorded to. You know, I run like anywhere from 10 or 20 sessions a week, and I'm making beats on the spot for artists in almost all of them. And I've learned a lot through that process of what do people actually want in a beat versus what's too much or what's too little. So I'd be happy to go through the vault and start breaking down some more of these to kind of show y'all what's a good way to place a beat with an artist and get them to pay you for it, right? So again, appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll see you next time.